I was
Yeah, we totally screwed that up.
oh my god. All right, well, this gets figured out.
Well, we're live.
Again, I was supposed to be serious this morning.
Okay. All right, well.
Live. Okay, serious face. So this is the Bitcoin morning brief. It's April 3rd. I am here with Tone Base. I'm Leah and have my dog here. We're gonna figure that one out. And hopefully Jimmy will be joining us. Tone, how's Vancouver?
It's good. It's good. This is my last morning here in Vancouver. You can see the sun rising behind me. I will be heading off to the airport right after the show, actually. So this was fun this morning. It's like the moment I hit the button, I'm like, oh shit. Okay, here we go. Because it takes like 3 seconds for it to actually go live, and I hit the button, and then Tor runs in the room, and I'm like, oh boy, there's nothing I can do about this.
And the attempt of my mom to secretly pull him out. Oh, well, soon everybody, I'll be in a co-working space downtown. No Thor, unfortunately. All right, let's go to screen share. All right. Jeez. All right. So here we go. So Bitpay raises 40 million in Series B rounds. Hold on one sec. Everything got a bit screwed up here.
Something's off on the screen share. This is not good morning for us. There we go.
Okay, blockchain. So Bitpay raises 40 million in Series B round. Blockchain payments are up. Bitpay has successfully raised 40 million in a Series B round with participation from venture capital firms Menlo Ventures and Aquiline Tech Growth. So Menlo was a really big deal, right? Raising a Series B of 40 mil with Menlo joining the round is a really big deal and could pave really the way. I'm going to try to figure this one out. For Silicon Valley, I think to start understanding the space, for me, really the takeaways of this were one, that Bitpay raised a sizable amount of institutional capital as an early stage venture. Two, that this is their 5th funding round with the total funding amount of 72.5 mil, which it says on Crunchbase, which shows active interest and belief in their tech and their team's ability to scale. Third, Sir Richard Branson is actually a former investor, and with a powerful VC like Menlo, who invested in Uber, Tumble, Roku, going in as a lead investor, has a strong and powerful network, I think, to assist Bitpay in adoption. So Tone, the partner who's spearheading Menlo's crypto work, said that they've been considering investments in various blockchain startups for the past 18 months, but was dissatisfied with its options until it found Bitpay.
This sounds very unfortunate to me. Like, I don't understand why anyone is investing in Bitpay. I don't think, like, none of these businesses, Bitpay, Coinbase, I don't think any of these businesses are going to last. This is not how Bitcoin was meant to work. So I don't know what they're saying to these investors. And so I don't really, I don't get it. Like, I don't know, what is it in Bitpay's history that makes people want to invest in them? First of all, their CEO loses like $5 million by sending Bitcoins to a hacker voluntarily. Then they get funded by Bitmain, which wanted to overtake Bitcoin with bigger blocks. Well, like, I don't understand what they see in Bitpay that makes these investors want to put money into it, unless it really is some kind of an overtake where we will control all the transactions and we will be the global monopoly. Like, the future of Bitcoin is for companies like Bitpay to not exist. So I just don't get it. I don't understand where they see returns on their investment coming from, because pretty soon, right now, the Bitcoin fees are tiny. Bitpay really enjoyed throwing in their 20-30% transaction fee during the full mempool, but now transactions are cheap again, and pretty soon Lightning is going to be with us. So Um, I don't get it.
On your point earlier of how they're going to cash out, right? The purpose of especially institutional funding is to make money on a liquidation event. So what do you think potentially, just taking that a little bit further, a potential vision state of BitPay, what would their future exit strategy be? Luckily, they are doing institutional capital. So that, but I don't know, an IPO. I mean, what's the purpose? Where do you think these institutional investors think that they're going to make money?
I mean, for now, they'll make money off the fees, but the thing is, like, I don't see Bitcoin like merchant adoption rising right now. And in a downtrend of the price of Bitcoin, more merchants are dropping Bitcoin from their point of sale machines than adding it to their point of sale machines. And pretty soon, with Lightning and better wallets, hopefully, you won't have to do any of that. You will just take in Bitcoin payments directly. Again, I don't really see a long-term future for BitPay. And once a real bank figures out how to do all this, they will, I mean, unless they're looking for a buyout, right? Unless BitPay would get bought by like a real bank to integrate this system into a bank. I think that's the only thing they have to hope for. I just don't see BitPay as a standalone company becoming any kind of a global leader. So I really don't get it. So
Right.
I mean, it's still better than participating in an ICO, but still, like if I was part of VCs, I would not be investing in BitPay. Let's put it that way.
Well, right, absolutely. But I think, as we all know, Silicon Valley is quite behind right now in even understanding the space completely. So, agreed. That's as per our further story about financial institutions getting involved, potentially that is their only exit strategy and liquidation event for these institutional investors. So, moving on to Google bans crypto mining browser extensions. So, Google's banned cryptocurrency mining browser extensions from the Chrome store. Other blockchain related extensions are still allowed. So in my eyes, this is good as crypto jacking has exploded, harming institutional controllers as well, especially in the last 6 months. At least that's what I've been learning. And the approach is adapted to initiate illicit crypto mining. So it is, as we've spoken about before regarding the ad bans, right? It's Google's responsibility as a private company to ensure that their consumers are not harmed. But many of these mining extensions are seen to be malicious right now and fail to comply with their review. So this is Google taking another stand, saying that they are going to be making their requirements clear with a commitment to scrutinize these extensions, right, more closely. So can you break down, just to start off with, crypto jacking? And given that they're allowing other blockchain related extensions, how are they going to vet these extensions?
I'm not sure that they are, and that's why they're kind of banning all of them, right? Like this is the ICO problem. Like you can't vet every ICO for potentially 1 to 2% of all the ICOs to pass your requirements of not being scams, like from a government perspective. So it's the same issue here. Like they can't vet every single one of these mining Chrome extensions. And I guarantee you 98 to 99% of them are going to be malicious. And that one guy that isn't malicious is going to yell and scream that his isn't malicious, but it doesn't matter, right? I don't really have a problem with this. I don't want my Chrome extensions mining on my computer. And if there's any code in there that is doing mining, like I won't know. Like I'm not that good at looking at code, nor does anybody look at the code of their Chrome extensions. So basically, if Google engineers can come up with a way to screen any Chrome extension, and the moment they spot anything related to mining, they should ban this thing. Because, like, look, if you want it, if you really want a Chrome extension that mines, fine, then like go download it, like I do with my phone. Like if you don't, like Google doesn't have to accept every single app on your phone, but guess what? It's an Android phone. You can go get an APK file. You don't need it on the Google store. You can install from APKs and you can have whatever app you like. I guarantee you that the person making a Chrome extension can give you the code and you can install it and you can add it without it being in the convenience of downloading it from like the approved by Chrome and Google, because then people can just sneak that shit in through in the back of any Chrome extension. Like for example, right now I'm not using any ad blockers because a lot of these ad blockers were like preventing stuff on my own website that weren't ads because I don't have any ads. Like my Chrome extensions were preventing me from doing a lot. They were preventing me from loading Zoom. My ad blockers were preventing me from streaming live to Zoom, and I couldn't figure out why can't I stream live from Zoom anymore? And it turns out it was one of my ad blockers, and I just deleted all of them. It sucks. I have ads and pop-ups again, but like I don't know what's on the back of these things and how they act with my computer. Oh, you're muted, Leah.
Thanks. And it says at the bottom here that Google itself was a victim and that its double-click ads were used to distribute crypto mining malware. So absolutely correct. So moving on, TD Bank seeks patent to track payments on public blockchains. So the Toronto Dominion Bank, TD Bank, is interested in using a public distributed ledger to help track transactions via point of sale computers. So the patent application outlines specifically, quote, an apparatus for use in a digital asset tracking system includes a storage device and a processor coupled to the storage device. So, and I was doing a little more research. Bloomberg recently reported that financial companies have actually beaten tech in seeking blockchain payments, yet are unwilling to allow customers to invest in Bitcoin, obviously. And Bank of America actually tops that list with number of patents. So I find the story important because historically banks have actually been less active in pursuing patents, yet I see this as a Wall Street attempt to beat Silicon Valley and potentially patent trolls, which are a big deal. I believe that this could snowball the amount of patents, which I'm not a fan of, related to blockchain and potentially drastically stifle growth. And to note, this patent was actually filed in September 2016. So to be determined, they haven't actually announced too much news after that of what happened to this. So Tone, you've expressed your negative opinions about patents before, patents versus trademarks. TD Bank's patent is to utilize specifically the Bitcoin's blockchain. So the patent office is definitely busy with crypto cases. Do you think that this is going to increase large corporations with powerful patent lawyers, increased interest in patenting Bitcoin blockchain initiatives?
I don't think so, especially this one here. Like if you read the details, it sounds like they're trying to patent the way they're reading data in the blockchain, which is like trying to patent the way you read data on the internet. It seems totally silly. It just seems like, oh, they wanted to, get their name out there because other banks are trying to patent something. I don't see how this is useful at all. Whatever they're doing, like any high school computer science whiz can probably do and track the data inside the blockchain. I mean, right now it seems like a lot of these banks and stuff, they don't want to get involved in Bitcoin and other crypto because they don't know where all the transactions are. But if they can have a system where they can track every single payment, they can be okay with that. And it's not even necessarily the bank's fault. I mean, the banks have been deputized by the governments to the banks have been deputized by the governments to check every single transaction. And what happens in the case of blockchain and Bitcoin, they are not capable of checking every single transaction. So they're coming up with ways to check every single transaction, and then they will be government compliant in order to continue their operations. Like people have to understand that like a bank, like people think that the big banks control, the government and they can do whatever they want. That's not true because these banks do want to cannibalize each other, right? This is why we had 5 investment banks in 2007 and 2 investment banks after 2007, right? Because we had Bear Stearns where I was, they went under. Lehman Brothers, right next door to where Bear Stearns was, they went under. Merrill Lynch got bought by Bank of America. The only 2 that survived was Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs. Now, clearly, Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers, which were serious companies, went under, right? So banks want to cannibalize each other. So when one bank screws up and does something illegal, yeah, the other banks are happy because then, hey, that bank looks bad and we get more customers. So they are competing with each other. So the first bank to actually prove to the government that they can track every single Bitcoin payment will have no problem adding Bitcoin into their operation. So these are just attempts to identify every transaction on the Bitcoin blockchain, because these banks do want like these businesses, because it is kind of businesses, but they also want to comply with the government. That's just my opinion. But a patent like this is totally useless. The data in the Bitcoin blockchain is public. So having a patent on a system that reads that data is almost like, it's kind of forcing other banks to do work and not open source, right? Because if one bank goes through a lot of trouble and has a unique way of identifying every transaction, they don't want every other bank using that. They want to beat it to the punch and then potentially take on Bitcoin customers again. Though in a way, Bitcoin is competing with banks directly. But I think a lot of these bank executives, once they understand Bitcoin, they will see that maybe it's better to accept Bitcoin than to fight it. Because if Blockbuster had accepted the Netflix business model, maybe Blockbuster would still be around in some way. But they didn't accept Netflix business model, and there's no more Blockbuster.
Right. I also think this may be interesting to follow with certain states, obviously, Arizona being one of them, Wyoming, right, that are more keen to adopt Bitcoin if this will prove a bit more adoption with muni bond underwriting. But I guess that's to be determined. Do you have any comments on that though?
Not really. No. I really don't want to get into muni bonds this morning.
Sounds good. They're not that interesting. That's true.
I know.
I,
Not at all. God, no.
very happy I did not take that Goldman Sachs job. All right, SEC charges DJ Khaled and Mayweather backed ICO with fraud. I love this one. So the SEC has charged the founders specifically of the DJ Khaled and Mayweather backed CTR token with fraud. So this is Centra. So Centra raised 32 mil via this ICO. And at the same time, now the DOJ has announced criminal charges. Also, I found this interesting, against the founders, Sharma and Farkas. So I'm going to pull up very quickly. This one is my most favorite. So DJ Khaled and Mayweather, the duo falsely offered here Visa and MasterCard backed debit cards. And again, this is my favorite part of the story with this wonderful picture of Mayweather. Just as a side note, Binance currently lists the CTR token. Tone, was such a high profile case with Khaled, Mayweather as the poster child, filed specifically in the Southern District of New York. I see this as the SEC finally getting serious since the subpoenas were issued.
I don't. I always go the other way of like general consensus. And here's why. Because this was actually a scam, right? Like this token did absolutely nothing. This was a straight up scam. Like this is low hanging fruit. Now, the only thing that might come out of this that's good is if perhaps Mayweather will learn his lesson, though I doubt it, and other celebrities or non-celebrities, those with a lot of Twitter followers, will learn the lesson that promoting something that you don't understand can get you in legal trouble. So there's two things here. First of all, if the SEC does not do anything to Floyd Mayweather or DJ Khaled over this, then obviously no one is going to learn their lesson as far as celebrity endorsements of scams or non-celebrity general endorsements of scams. So that lesson will not be learned until people really understand. Now, no one in the ICO crypto space will learn either, because they're just going to say, well, this is another pay coin. This is just guys that lied and their ICO didn't actually do anything other than raise money. But these people are somewhat delusional that their ICO is actually doing something, while this ICO was doing nothing with a bunch of lies. The reality is, 80 to 90+% of ICOs that claim to actually do something, they're still doing nothing. It's complete. Either that people are delusional, that think their ICOs are doing something and their projects are doing something, but in reality they're not. So until the SEC actually goes after an ICO that people in the general crypto space believe that this ICO token or the token in general is useful, no one is actually going to get the message that these are securities. Like, to me, this ICO and Ethereum in its first year before the launch of Ethereum are exactly the same. And most people just don't see that, right? Because remember, Ethereum did an ICO, they pre-sold a token, and then for an entire year, there was nothing, and everyone was waiting for the platform to launch. That is no different with everyone promoting Ethereum, how great it's going to be when they launch it. That year of 2014, when Ethereum was being built, that is no different than whatever this token is. What is this token? CTR token, right? It is absolutely no different than the CTR token, other than these guys, stupidly said that they had, relationships with Visa and MasterCard, so they actually lied. But in reality, pre-selling a token and then building your platform for as long as you want was the model of Ethereum. So to me, this token is no different than Ethereum. And this could have, and perhaps should have happened to Ethereum during 2014 before the Ethereum launched, and then we wouldn't have this ICO nonsense. And this is the problem, right? You don't just like pre-sell a digital security and then start building your platform, coming up with a use case for that security. So eventually, I have a feeling the SEC will figure this out if they haven't figured it out yet. Is Ethereum too big for the SEC to go after at this point? I don't know. But to me, the problem is way more systemic than this single incident. And this is still a very low-hanging fruit. This was just like too easy for the SEC. I'm waiting for them to actually sink their teeth into something that matters.
Right. The only upside I see about the low-hanging fruit is that it could be some quick wins, which hopefully do scare the ecosystem a little bit more. And specifically with these celebrities trying to endorse things, maybe they'll get a little bit more intelligent about actually seeing what's up, but that's also to be determined. What I do like about this story is the DOJ getting a bit more involved and actually trying to do the criminal suits. Again, to be determined on that, but hopefully it scares a little bit. So without further ado, before Thor runs in again, Tone, you want to do price?
Sure, let's check this out. All right, guys, so here's the weekly chart, and we are bouncing. We're bouncing nicely, and this goes perfectly in line with what I said yesterday. Our weekly chart is looking good. We are bouncing off the 50-week moving average. Let's see how far we can get. I personally think the ceiling on this bounce, which I'm still considering a dead cat bounce, though I could change my mind. I think that the first barrier is that $7,800 to $8,000 zone, the area of the breakdown. If we can get past that, then there is a slightly better one. But the week has just started. So here are the arrows that I drew. I actually did CNBC Africa this morning, but they recorded it, so that's going to be out in a day or two. So I slightly adjusted these arrows. I pulled them back by a day because as I drew this arrow off of the 9 rebound on the daily, I'm still looking for a 1 to 4 day correction. That's it. But I specifically referred to it as a tradable bounce. That means that you could have a bullish trade here, counter your weekly trend rally. And if you can make it past 4 days, you stay with that bullish trade. Your stop loss can now be easily moved up to the bottom of current candle. The current candle is already half a day in, and the low of that candle looks to be at around 7,000, just over 7,000 bucks, right? So I would set my stop loss just under 7,000, and this trade to the upside off the dead cat bounce should be looking good. We have a 9, we have a 13 the following day. We have a reversal candle. Things are looking really well. Now, my initial target is only 78, 7,900 area, and probably just 2 more days of upside. And then most likely down, but I will be reevaluating this position daily, if not twice a day. You have to be very careful here. And if you do sell a little prematurely and it continues to go up, then you can always buy back in. So overall, I remain with the weekly trend of bearish, but daily is looking good. You stick with the bounce for now. Is this the 1 hour or the 12 hour? This is the 1 hour. So let's just go to the 4-hour chart. The 4-hour chart is coming up on its 50-period moving average, but the 50-period moving average on a 4-hour chart has not been doing much. We do have green numbers, so perhaps we can get back to the setup trend line, which is at $8,000. So the 4-hour chart is also pointing to this. I'll even extend this breakdown line. So the 4-hour chart is also pointing to this cluster of 7,800 to $7,800 to $8,000 resistance area. Maybe we'll get there quicker, and there'll be a 9 here. Maybe we'll reset the count and start a new 9 count. So we will see. Here is the 1-hour chart. The 1-hour chart has been flat. So the good news is the more we stay flat right here at $7,300 to $7,400 area, the longer we stay here, once we break above this line, I'm just going to draw a best fit line right here. The moment we break above this line and above the 200-period moving average, we could easily set off one more quick, swift move to the upside, again, taking us into that $7,800 area. Finally, glancing at the 12-hour chart, the 12-hour chart, it has gone bullish, right? The moment the candle with a 2 started trading above a 1, now I probably would have been slightly more conservative and waited not only for the 2 to be above a 1, but for the 2 to also be above a 9. That line is from the 1-hour chart, by the way. But yeah, so the 12-hour rebounded off of a 9. Granted, you didn't catch the bottom, but the daily would have helped you. And now the 12-hour chart is also bullish. And just like the rest, the 12-hour chart is looking, everything is looking at that $7,800 to $8,000 resistance zone. It will also catch up to its declining 50-period moving average. It'll be a triple cluster of resistance. If we can bust through it, then perhaps we can go into this crossover of the trend lines plus the 50-day moving average for a stronger resistance area. So let's keep an eye on this, and I will update you all tomorrow. That's it for me, Leah. I guess we can close out. I got to start packing and get to the airport.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Hopefully that provided a little bit of comic relief in the morning. Tomorrow I will be more serious, but thank you so much, everybody, and have a great day.
Bye, guys.